Hi everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session, Coding for Accessible Learning. My name is Chelsea Williamson and I work at iSchool Africa and Think Ahead as the Inclusion and Accessibility Facilitator. I'm going to be hosting this afternoon session and I'm going to be joined shortly by the amazing and energetic Nick, who's going to talk to you about the practical elements on practically how you teach coding. But before we get to Nick, I'm going to start off the session with the why of coding for accessible learning. Why is coding important in the inclusive and accessible class? And I think it's so important that we understand the why, because often we ask ourselves, we can get bored with something, or if somebody tells you to run 5Ks a day, it feels like torture. But if you understand running 5Ks a day does amazing benefit for you, it's going to make you live longer, it's going to make you feel better, then you want to run 5Ks a day, okay? Lockdown, not many people have been doing that, but alas, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the why for coding for inclusion. But before we get to why coding for accessible learning, or what is coding for accessible learning, I think we need to understand what code is. So code essentially is what makes computer programs run, it makes websites, it makes apps. In fact, anything that you do on your devices was made and created using code. So code, when we're looking at it in education, through an education lens, coding for mainstream education it's vital. I mean, you actually can't get away with not doing coding in the main ed class anymore, because when we're living in the fourth industrial revolution, which we are, it is a vital 21st century skill, and not knowing coding will truly set any learner back quite far. But when we're looking at coding for accessible learning, or coding for the inclusive class, or coding for special ed, the benefits are tremendous. The benefits are mind-blowing. And it really is, it's amazing to see how the research is being done in this area. And there is so much research being done in this area. And I'm excited to present to you some of the findings on the benefits for coding for accessible learning. But before we get there, I want to share a little bit of my own journey, because I think it just will help you understand the accessible lens or the inclusive lens. So when I was 9 years old, in fact it was on my 9th birthday, happy birthday to me, I was diagnosed with a whole host of learning and neurodiverse disabilities. And before you think it, no, you cannot see my disability. It is considered an invisible disability, but alas, I was diagnosed at the age of 9. And I happened to be at an unbelievable inclusive school in Dubai. It's where I grew up. In fact, if you listen to Sabi's session, who was just before mine, Sabi is teaching in Sharjah, and Sharjah is 20 minutes away from Jumeirah, where I grew up. And the school that I was at, Jumeirah Primary School, for me is the most unbelievable school. It was an inclusive school, but I don't think they labeled themselves as inclusive. It just happened to be inclusive, and that was why I was diagnosed so early. And it really, I think I owe my life, I owe everything that I've ever done to the teachers and therapists at Jumeirah Primary School. And those of you that are teachers in a special needs school or in a mainstream school that has 1 or 2 children with disabilities in it, I just want to say keep going, because you'll end up with amazing kids that are passionate and you'll make such an impact in their lives. So teachers, I just take my hat off to you. But anyways, that's not what I wanted to tell you. So at the age of 9, I was diagnosed, and I never really felt disabled. I never really felt different until I was in grade 3. And I don't think it was long after my diagnosis, but in grade 3, there was a pivotal moment in my life, and that was the transition from pencil to pen. Might sound ridiculous, but it was massive for me, so just bear with me. Now, when you're overseas, I don't know if it's a thing in other countries. I don't even know if it's a thing in South Africa, but when you transition from pencil to pen, you get a pen license. And I mean, it was a big deal. You get this laminated little pen license with your photo and your name on it, and it was like this huge achievement, and I wanted my pen license. And I remember beginning of grade 3, I was motivated and I did everything that I could, and I practiced my handwriting and I practiced my spelling, and I really did my best. But come the end of the year, I had still not achieved my pen license. And looking back, I remember all my friends having had their pen license. I'm pretty sure people had like finished the ink on their first pen already, and I was still sitting there, no pen license. And it kind of got to a point where in grade 4, you needed a pen. There was no more pencils. So I aged out, if you want to call it that, and I got my pen license. And I mean, I was so young, I don't think I was, I think I was completely oblivious to all of this. And I was so excited. It didn't matter. I just had my pen license. I was so excited. And I took this pen and I was ready to conquer the world. And I put the pen on paper and my world fell apart. Because having a pencil, I always had my trusty eraser, which meant that any mistake, any spelling error, any cognitive mistakes or thought processes that were unclear, I could fix. I could just erase it, fix it, and no one knew anything better. But whenever I handed in my assessments or my tests or my projects, I always felt like it looked like a crime scene. And I'm not going to lie to you, it destroyed me. It destroyed my confidence. It made me anxious. It made me depressed. I completely withdrew in class. And it was, to be frank, quite traumatic. Luckily, the school that I was at identified this very quickly, and they started technology interventions. I started doing assignments and exams and tests using a computer. I started having a computer with me in class. It was life-changing. For someone like me, it was life-changing. So when I talk about the iPad, I don't talk about it as like a cool device that you can play like games and, Kahoot and Quizlet and, all these fun little apps. The iPad changed my life. And when I see children and students in special needs schools or inclusive schools, I'm seeing how the iPad is changing their lives. In my own personal experience, there are days, even today, when I'm really struggling and I can't make sense of what I'm thinking. And if I'm sitting with my iPad, I simply push the dictation button that comes up on my keyboard. On the bottom left-hand side of my keyboard, there's a microphone button. I push it, I speak into my iPad, and everything that I say gets typed for me. There's some days when my reading fatigue is so bad because of anxiety and other side effects of my lovely disability, and I use Speak Screen, and all the text on my device gets read to me. And I don't need to worry about the fact that I can't see clearly, or I feel cross-eyed and everything is blurred around me. My device helps me and it supports me, and it's truly the only way that I'm able to function in day-to-day life. And I'm so lucky to have my iPad, and I'm so lucky to be a part of a company that prioritizes accessibility and inclusion for special needs schools. Now, that is just for general situations, but my story is not unique to my disability, because the iPad transforms the lives of every single student with almost every disability. And the iPad transforms when you start looking at coding. It's a new level of transformation and accessibility and inclusion. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 benefits for coding for accessible learning. The first one is coding is a new language and a new form of literacy. We know that the biggest barrier in the disabled communities and in special needs and remedial and inclusive classrooms, that the biggest barrier can be communication. When we're looking at deaf children, whether it's the language barrier between I know sign language, you only know spoken languages, there's a communication barrier. Or autistic children that are nonverbal or pre-verbal, that there's a communication barrier there. Or even if you're looking at students with disabilities such as my own, there's a communication barrier, there's a language barrier, but coding is a new form of language. It's a new literacy, which means that the slate is wiped clean. We're not carrying old burdens into a new language, but it's a new language starting from scratch and a new form of literacy. Secondly, coding creates entrepreneurial thinking. Did you know that there are over 1 billion disabled people worldwide? Did you know that 80% of the disabled population worldwide is unemployed? Did you know that that statistic is worse in South Africa? 1% of disabled South Africans are employed. That's right, 99% of the disabled population in South Africa is unemployed. I can't wrap my head around that statistic. But coding opens doors that were never open before. We know that there are 4 times more jobs available in the tech industry. In fact, now with COVID, we're seeing that statistic rise because with everything moving online, there is a bigger need and a bigger driving force around the tech industry. Online, online, online. That is the buzz word at the moment. Now, let's take a look at this little circle that we've got going on here, okay? Improve coding at in education level, improves opportunity for employment rate. Now, as the employment rate within the economic sector increases, there's going to be a bigger need for accessible and inclusive technology and devices. And who better to code the accessible technology and inclusive devices than persons with disabilities? Coding creates entrepreneurial thinking. It opens new doors and it opens new opportunities for students with disabilities. And lastly, coding creates empowerment. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm not sure if you know this statistic, but depression and suicide rates are 10 times higher in children with disabilities. When you hear stories like mine, it's no question why. Anxiety is higher, isolation, self-confidence, all of these factors are affected for children with disabilities, for students with disabilities, for people with disabilities. However, coding creates a new form of empowerment. I can do this. And if I can't do it, I can create something that can help me to do that. And that's what we're starting to see now, especially worldwide. We're starting to see this rise in the disabled community creating accessible and inclusive solutions. Whether it's in the education sector or in the economic sector, we're seeing this rise, and coding is the key that unlocks that door. And I'm so grateful to be a part of today's summit because all the proceeds, everybody who bought their ticket, all the proceeds are going towards the iSchool Africa Inclusion Fund, which is going to allow us to keep going in special needs schools across the country and teaching them this vital skill of code, to give them the technology that is needed to teach them this skill, and hopefully to start saturating the economic sector in children, students, and persons with disabilities. So thank you for buying your ticket, and thank you for attending today, and thank you for being a teacher in inclusive and accessible education. So now that you've heard the benefits, I'm going to hand on over to Nick, our unbelievable and energetic little ball of fun. And he's going to start showing you practically how you can use Swift Playgrounds, which is Apple's coding language, which is Apple's app that they created with Apple's coding language. And he's going to show you how to run it through it. He's going to show you 3 basic tools or lessons that you can use for coding. The first one is going to be commands, the second one is going to be functions, and the third one is going to be loops. And whilst he's speaking, I want you to start thinking of how you could integrate this and how you could use a command in a mainstream and a special ed class. How many commands do you give your children a day? How many functions do you tell your students to do a day? How many loops do your students do a day? You see, coding relates to real life as well. So start thinking of that as you hear Nick present on coding today. And type your comments in the chat section, and don't forget to share on social media. Over to you, Nick.
Hello, and thank you very much for joining us for this session of Coding for Accessible Learning. Thank you again, Chelsea, for the introduction. I am Nick, and I will be your host for this session. Alright, so I'll be taking you guys through Swift Playgrounds, guys. Swift is Apple's coding language, and they use this language to develop and program all their softwares, all their apps, okay? And now it's being brought to you, the user, to learn how to use this amazing tool, okay? And it's all for free, guys. All you need is an iPad, okay? So you can code, you can learn how to code with Swift on an iPad and on a Mac, guys, and this is all for free, okay? And I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. All right, so first thing, we're gonna jump into Swift Playgrounds on our devices. So I'm just gonna hit Swift, Swift is the one with the little bird. So let me just do it again so that you guys can see. So you guys will see that playgrounds is the one with the bird. We click on that and there'll be, mine has a lot of playgrounds. So don't worry if yours doesn't have any playgrounds, because you might be new to Swift playgrounds, okay? So it just shows that I've been going through Swift quite a lot. I've been going through a lot of playgrounds. So there's quite a lot. The one that you're looking for, guys, it is, we are looking for Hello Byte. Okay, so Hello Byte looks like that. If you don't see it on your screen, we'll just go to see all at the bottom there. You'll find it under challenges, okay? You'll find it under challenges. And so this is all inside Swift Playground. If you can't find Swift Playgrounds, just check in your App Store, iOS App Store or Mac App Store. Okay, so you guys can check it out in there as well. Okay, that's if you can't find Swift Playgrounds. Once it's downloaded, we are ready to go. So we're gonna click on Hello Byte. Shouldn't take that long to load. We'll start first with the introduction of one of the most basic and first concept to learn in coding, which is commands. Okay, this is the first and the best. This is the ground. So we start in the foundation. So we're building your coding skills from the ground up. So commands are instructions, guys. So instructions like stand up, turn around, jump. Okay, so as we start, they take us through, have you ever followed a recipe to bake something delicious? Okay, so whenever we baking something delicious or we are assembling something cool, like we're following a little instructions to try and assemble a drone or a chair or whatever it is, there's instructions that we have to follow, correct? So there's instructions. There's step 1, you have to do this, step 2, step 3, all the way down. You need to follow those instructions in the correct order. What happens if you decide, okay, I'm gonna start following these instructions. I'm gonna do instruction 1, then to maybe skip 3, 4, 5, and then go down to 6, and then maybe go back up to 3, and then go to 10. You might end up with something unexpected. So it's very important to follow the order in which the instructions are given to you. In coding, it's the exact same thing. When you give out the instructions, when you write code, you are giving instructions to the robot or the computer to follow, and it's going to follow it the way that you wrote it in that order. Okay, so it won't go and be like, I'm going to skip number 3, I'm going to skip number 4. It will follow exactly the way you wrote it. So you need to be careful that you make sure that you are specific and it's logical as well. Okay, I'll show you guys as we go on what I mean by logical. Okay, so next, so writing code will allow us to create our own set of instructions for the computer or the robot to carry out. Okay, in Swift Playgrounds, very fun, very easy puzzle world where our goal is to figure out which instructions and in which order, remember the order, it will result in something great. Okay, so we'll go off and we'll start on the next one. The first command that you guys will learn is the move forward command. So we want our character to move forward, okay? This is a little specific because forward is the direction that it's facing. So it's moving in the direction that it's facing. So it's gonna take a step. In Swift, move forward will make our character, that orange character there, his name is Byte, okay? Move forward will make Byte move 1 step forward. So Byte will move 1 step forward, and that is 1 move forward. So if you want Byte to move 5 steps forward, how many move forwards do you think that Byte will need? 5, that is correct. So Byte will need 5 move forwards in order to move 5 blocks. All right, then the next one is the collect gem. Whenever you guys see a gem in the puzzle world, collect that gem. Because that's what Byte loves to do. Byte loves collecting gems. So if there's a gem, collect the gem, okay? And remember, you can only collect the gem once you're on the same block as the gem. So when you're on the same block as the gem, then only can you collect the gem. All right, so we move over to the next one, okay? So you guys will notice here, you've got collect gem and move forward, all right? They are all 2 words, but they are combined together as if it's 1. So in coding, when you guys are writing code, you make sure that you put the command together. You don't separate it because it's not two separate things. It's one instruction that it needs to follow. And to be specific of the second word, you put a capital letter in front of the second word. This is for you to know that this is two different words that are being put together. But the most important thing is those brackets at the end, those parentheses. You guys see that at the end? Those are what tell it that this is an instruction that it needs to perform. Without it, it doesn't know what it is and it won't do anything. But that tells it that this is an instruction. It's like the game Simon Says. Okay, have you guys ever played Simon Says before? So Simon Says is a very cool game that is played all over the world. Okay, and it's an instruction game. You need to listen out for the instructions, or you need to look out for the instructions as well. So it's a very fun game played in multiple ways. Okay, so you guys can try that game out. So whenever we say Simon Says, okay, so we'll say Simon Says hands on heads, and then you'll put on hands on heads. Simon Says hands on shoulders, then you put your hands on your shoulders. And when I say hands on heads, oops, you don't take your hands to the head because Simon did not say hands on heads. So that parenthesis over there, it's like Simon Says. Without saying Simon Says, the robot won't perform. You won't do that reaction. Would you guys like to play a little game of Simon Says right now quickly? All right, guys, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a little fun, okay? So we're gonna play a little game of Simon Says. Okay, maybe we should just change it. Let's just change it just for this one. We're gonna call it Nick Says, okay? Because I'm Nick, we're gonna call it Nick Says. All right, so this is how we're gonna play the game, okay? So on your Zoom, at the very bottom bar, okay, you'll notice that there is a reaction tab over there. All right, so you guys are going to select that reaction tab. You'll notice that there are a few reactions that you guys can do: thumbs up, thumbs down, the clapping reaction, and the excited reaction. That's the one with that little like a little cylinder cup with confetti popping out. That's that one that we're talking about. Okay, so we'll just call it the excited or excitement emoji. Okay, is that cool? All right, perfect. So those you will find at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so bottom right, reactions, it should be there. You'll just find it at the bottom of there. So we're gonna play a little game of Nick Says using those reactions. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'll say Nick Says and I'll pick which reaction that you guys should select and put on your screen. Okay, and if Nick doesn't say, then okay, we don't do. Okay, we only do when Nick says. Okay, should we give it a try? Okay, let's have a little fun one and just try it out for now. Nick says thumbs up emoji. Okay, there we go. You guys see how the game works? Okay, thumbs up emoji again. Caught you out, there we go. So you don't do it, okay? So you always look for the words Nick says. All right, so let's go for it again. For real this time, okay? So let's do this. All right, Nick says clapping emoji. Thumbs up emoji. Okay, got you guys there. Okay, thumbs down emoji. Got you. So, okay, guys. So the only correct one was the clapping emoji because I started with Nick Says. Select the clapping emoji. Okay, so guys, just like in code, those Nick Says is like those parentheses, those brackets at the end there. Okay, so if you don't have it, the computer or the robot will not perform it. Okay, remember guys, command is a specific action for a computer or a robot to perform. Okay, and that parenthesis tells it that that is an instruction or a command that it needs to perform. Without it, it won't perform it. Okay, so we'll just select start. Okay, so we will get a puzzle wall just now. So if you don't see anything, don't panic, it's fine. It just needs a little time to load. Okay, so now we have the puzzle wall there. There's Byte over there. So you can pinch in and out to zoom, okay? And you can rotate and move your finger around just to get a better view, okay? Because remember, we said one move forward equals one block. So there are a few blocks. So you need to make sure that you can see the blocks clearly. You can count how many blocks that there are on the screen, okay? At the top there, it gives us the name of the level that we are on. issuing commands. Okay, you can click on the drop down menu to see the different levels, and you can move around to see that as well. Okay, there's arrows on the left and on the right. This is to move back and forth throughout the different levels as well. The 3 dots next to the plus sign, very important over there, that when you click on it, it drops down the toolbar. Most important tool that we might use, I always use, is that reset page over there. If you've written code but you've got a lot of errors and you don't know where the mistake is, simplest thing to do, just reset and start all over again. Okay, so we're not writing long lines of code, it's only a few lines of code, so you still have enough time to redo it if you reset your page. Okay, to get rid of that, just click up there as well, or anywhere on the screen. Okay, you'll notice that as well, we've got, when we start, we've got our little goal text over here, this little part here that tells us, this is going to give us instructions on what we need to do here. Okay, so there's a goal. So the goal says we need to use Swift commands to tell Byte to move and collect a gem. So you'll notice on your screen, Byte needs to go collect that gem at the end over there. So what we do, step number 1, look for the gem in the puzzle. There it is, we found it. Step number 2, enter the correct combination of move forwards and collect gem commands. All right, so now we need to enter the correct one. So first we check how many move forward does Byte needs to make, because Byte 1 move forward equals 1 block. So there's 1, 2, 3 blocks. So we need to enter. So at the bottom here, this is where your code is going to go. So when you tap here, it says tap to enter code. Click on that, okay? And then you will see that you can add your code in there. So at the bottom, you'll get a bar that will give you your code that you can select and use. So you don't have to type it down for your first time, okay? You can just select the code at the bottom of the app. So we're gonna enter 1, 2, 3 move forwards, okay? And then eventually collect the gem. So you can only collect the gem on the block that you have. So you have to step onto the block of the gem, then you can collect the gem. Once you've done that, you'll notice here, okay, at the middle, lower bottom, okay, of our puzzle screen, you'll see there'll be a run code tab over there. So run my code, tap on that, and then you'll notice your character is now going to move forward 3 times and then collect the gem. Well done, guys. That's simple. That is Swift commands. So remember, commands are instructions, okay? Now, we are going to move over to functions. Okay, so I can explain what functions are. Remember guys, once you've learned the basics on how to do it, you guys can complete the rest on your own. Very simple, very easy. Just follow the goal or the challenge tab and to complete the level and you are good to go. All right, so we are jumping over to introductions. Remember, you click on the title there at the top of the page and we're going to introduction of functions. All right, so functions guys, grouping tasks, okay? So functions, simplest way to explain what a function is. A function is a group of instructions, okay? That are put together and then given a name, and then that will now be an instruction that you can now use. So basically, it is an instruction that is created by using other instructions. All right, so very good example, like brushing your teeth, okay? When you guys first learn how to brush your teeth, you guys were given the steps. Grab the toothbrush, grab the toothpaste, put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, and so on. Okay, so like steps like that. Those are all instructions. So now you group all those instructions, you put them together, and then you call it brush teeth. And you can call brush teeth as one instruction, but when you really break it down, there's a whole list of instructions that you need to follow in order to complete brushing your teeth. All right, so functions, grouping tasks over here. So every day you guys perform a range of tasks automatically without even thinking about it, okay? Even simple like tying your shoelaces, guys. Tying your shoes is a very simple task. Tie shoe, one instructions, but within that instructions, you've got more instructions that you need to follow. Like first, you need to loop the lace, swoop the lace, and then pull the lace. So those are 3 instructions that you need to do in order to perform a tie shoe instruction. Okay, so
this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to take those three instructions and we're going to group them together. Okay, so in programming, a function allows you to name commands which you can then run at any time that you want. So look here, we use the word func. It's the first 4 letters of the word functions. Okay, when you guys say to a computer function, it won't know what you're talking about because that is not a language that it understands. But when you use the word func, it knows what you're talking about. Another quick one, another quick thing, just to let you guys know. So when we human beings talk about code, we would use the words function. We would write it, draft it, and write function. But when it comes to a computer, we can't do that. We have to use func, okay? And that us using that language function, okay? That is known as pseudocode. Okay, pseudocode is informal description of code. Formal is func, informal is function. Okay, to the computer. Okay, to us func would be informal. It's like, what is func? It's coding language. But to code, that is what it understands. So we use the word func, then you give it a name. Okay, we're gonna call it tie my shoe. Look there, it's got those parentheses at the end there. Why? Because it's also an instruction. Okay, once we've created it, it's going to be an instruction that we could follow. Then we create these curly braces, one that opens, one that closes. This forms like an invisible box, okay? Everything that we want, all the instructions that we want to be part of tie my shoe will go inside that invisible box. Okay, so now whenever we say tie shoe, the robot or the computer will know that loop, swoop, pull. Okay, very simple. We create the function by calling func. We give it a name, then we define it. All right. There we go. So guys, we can move to the next page. Also, you'll see that the loop, swoop, pull also has those parentheses, which means that they are instructions as well. And once we've done this, okay, once we've defined it, we can now call it whenever we need it. So now we've got the tie my shoe function, which is a new command. So let's start coding. Okay, when we start coding, guys, the first one, okay, it's fine if it's loading, don't worry again. So in this level over here, we are going to compose, okay, so we're going to use composition to turn to the right. Okay, so what is composition, guys? So when you have a look on your screen over here, you have these little like coding is written in blue text instead of white text, and then you've got composition. You can actually click on it there and actually get the definition of what that word is. So that helps you so that you don't have to go running around finding out what does composition actually mean. So composition is the process of combining small parts, okay, of a program to solve a larger one. Okay, so we are using small little bits in order to solve a bigger problem. All right, now we need to, so step number 1, we need to figure out how to turn to the right using the commands you've used before. So we need to get Byte from where he is to the gem over there. All right, so we can see that we need to move forward 1, 2, 3 blocks, okay, to get there before we make a turn. So we're gonna move 1, 2, 3 blocks, okay? Now Byte is going to go over there. You can also run the code just to test how it behaves as well, okay? You don't have to always complete the code. Okay, so now Byte is there. What's the next step? I need to turn which direction? To the right. Okay, so now let's look for the right. Hang on. I don't seem to have a right. Do you guys have a right on your screen? Nope, it turns out that there's no right. So, how do we use what we have here in order to make Byte turn to the right? So, we only have the tools that we have. How do we make it work? So now, I need to turn right, I know that. Can I use a collect gem? No, because there's no gem where he's standing at the moment. Can I use a move forward? No, because it's just gonna fall off the world. Can I use toggle switch? Doesn't seem to be a switch in the world. So, turn left. But if he turns left, he's gonna turn the opposite direction, right? So I'm gonna add a turn left, okay? But if I add another turn left, what's gonna happen? He's gonna turn the opposite direction to what he's facing. Then if I use a third turn left, he'll eventually turn right. Okay, so let's try it out. I'm just gonna run the code just to see. So he moves forward. Okay, he turns left the first time, second time, then the third time. So we use 3 turn lefts in order to create a turn right. Okay, now we just need to complete our move forward. So 1, 2, 3 more, and then collect the gem. Okay, so we can click run my code and Byte will complete the rest of the process. So we used composition to solve this level. Okay, we used existing commands in order to solve for a new command. Okay, well done guys. So that is composition. Now we are going to see how a command is created. Okay, so remember when you create a command function, okay, if we are creating the command for turn to the right, okay, remember we need to create a turn right. So how do we create a turn right? We use turn lefts, 3 of them. So they called func to create a function for us. Then they gave it a name, which is turn right. Now all we need to do is to define it. So how are you defining it? You just turn left 3 times over there. Okay, and then at the very bottom of the there, tap to enter the code. You just simply write your normal code to move around to toggle that switch, just to solve the problem. And then wherever you need to turn right, just use turn right, and you'll notice that your character will turn left 3 times. Try this one out on your own. I know you guys will do very well on it. All right, just before I go, one last concept that I wanted to bring to you guys. This is for loops, okay? For loops. Okay, for loops, repeating ourselves. So whenever we're looping something, we are repeating ourselves. We're doing it over and over and over for a set number of times, okay? Another example where we do repeats, brushing your teeth, okay? We repeat this process over and over for a set number of times. All right, so we are going to take the code that we've learned and we are going to repeat it over and over. So imagine you're helping someone plant seeds in the garden, and they might say, okay, for each of these 4 seeds, make a hole, plant a seed, move 5 inches. So it's going to be 4 times. So you make a hole, okay, you plant the seed, you move 5 inches. You make a hole, plant a seed, you move 5 inches, and so on. So to turn this into code, okay, so to write a for loop, we use the word for. Remember with functions, we use the 4 letters func to create a function. To create a loop, we use the first word, which is for over there. Okay, this is how a computer knows that you want to repeat. So for each seed in 1 to 4, make a hole, place a seed, move 5 inches. So you've got those curly braces over there. Okay, whatever you want to repeat is inside that invisible box between those curly braces. And for I in 1, so starting at 1, all the way up to the number that you wanted to go up to. So 4 is the number, so it will go up to 4. Okay, there we go. So you got your commands in there, and then you'll notice that byte will start moving. Okay, for this level, there's only one that you need to do. Very simple, very easy. Give it a shot, try it out, look for the pattern. Because remember, you need to find something that you want to repeat. Okay, guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. This is very simple, very easy, and this is all on the iPad and the MacBook for free. So let's start learning, let's start coding, let's start solving problems. All right, cheers everyone. Thank you very much. You guys were awesome.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm sure you loved that session as much as I did and started seeing how the dots can connect in your special needs class and your inclusive class. Something I just want to add at the end is sometimes we can struggle to find apps that are accessible, but Swift Playgrounds was created by Apple with accessibility in mind, and all of the accessibility features work perfectly with the Swift Playgrounds, including voiceover and speak screen, Zoom, the hearing devices. Everything works beautifully in Swift Playgrounds. Every image has alt text, and it really is one of those apps that you know will be easy to use in your accessible and inclusive class. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and your ideas for coding for your accessible class. So make sure that you send them to us, make sure you share them on social media, and without further ado, we're going to head on over to our next session. So this was the last breakaway session. Our next session, we are going to be heading over to the amazing Craig Smith. He's going to be giving us our summit keynote. Craig Smith is a guru in the field of autism and inclusion, and he's going to be sharing some of his top tips for inclusion. So be sure to head on over to the accessible group. You're now in the inclusive group, so make sure you swap Zoom links, head on over to Craig's keynote, and we will see you soon.